Okay, now second koans video. Had a couple of problems with tmux. It's taken a while to get this going. I got halfway through it, and I had to revert my changes to Git. So I've already done the first half. I can just fill it in basically. Anyway, a string is only, as far as I'm able to find out, equivalent to a string. There's no other way to get that first condition to be true. And str as a function does lots of things, I found out. One thing it does is it turns symbols into string. It can be thought of as toString basically. And symbols happen to have this form, that the symbol apostrophe world is the toString of that string form. The same is as what's that in English? Speech marks, world speech marks. It also allows you to concatenate strings, so this is also true, which is good. Two things in this line are worth noting. Firstly, that's the syntax in Clojure for a single character. And get allows you to extract characters from a string, much like in other languages you can get elements from an array or a list. I imagine Clojure has something similar for certain list types, and I've just got lots of different list types. Let's see, but that certainly is the first character from the strings. That'll be correct. The number of characters in Hello World, it doesn't have with Clojure it's easy. It's just 11. You just count the number of characters. Don't forget the space in the middle. There's no terminating null character hidden there. Those are not equal, so that would be a false here. And substring, I found out what it does is the first number is the index of the first character you want, and the second number is the index of the last character, or the first character you don't want. Is that correct? Or the last character you want? Let's see. Is that going to be correct? Yes. That would be, if there were another character, that means take all characters from the character in the 6th position to the character in the 10th position inclusive. And it also supports just taking 2 arguments. So that would also work. I found that out. String join is a composite function which takes a list. This is a list. And turns the elements individually into strings, I imagine, and then joins them. I suppose that's the way it would probably work. And this is a variadic function. It's more than variadic. It's got not just different numbers of arguments, it has different types of arguments. So on the one hand you can give it a list, or you can give it a separating string and a list. And the separating string in this case, so that 1, 2 and 3 when joined give 1, 2, 3 is a comma and a space. So that should now be true. Good. As well as that, there's a split lines function which splits on \n and then turns the result into a string. This is interesting. This is some sort of list-like structure, or some sort of collection using angular braces. It may mean something different, may just mean a list. I imagine we'll find that out later. So this is just going to be that. They are 1, 2 and 3. First you split the string on the \n, which means new line, and then you add, and then you take the various parts and you stringify them. Okay, string reverse is not a problem. That's just going to be that, I imagine. String index of hello world. Maybe you want to find the index of the first count of a substring, so you could just write an H here, or you could write hello, doesn't really matter. And the last index of the same. Okay, so you've got to be careful, you've got to read it correctly. Last index of and index of, that's interesting. Rather than calling something first index of and last index of, you have to remember that the one for the first index is just called index of, and the one for the last index is called last index of. I wonder if there's an indices of as well, which tells you all of the different indices for a string, for a substring in a larger string. And the order of arguments is also interesting here. Good. Hello world, hello. Well, that's going to be, I think that's 12. Am I wrong here? 5, 5, 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's see if it's 13. Yes, it's 13. And I imagine because the word Bob is not included in the string hello world, I imagine that returns a nil. I couldn't return an error. It just returns a nil. Okay, an exception. There's no reason for an exception. Nil's perfectly adequate. Sometimes you don't want white space cluttering the front and back. Okay, so I imagine that gets rid of all white space characters and just leaves us with hello world. Let's move down a bit. You can check if something is a car. Okay, this is very Lispian. With Lisp and with Scheme, you can have functions which end in question marks, which are often used for predicates, for functions which return either yes or no. So in this case, this would be a false. So false helps if I can spell it. And this is also not a string, so this is going to be false. String's a string, so we can put any string we want in here. I imagine the empty string will return true. Yes, it does, good. Some strings may be blank. There's a test for the empty string, so that's going to be true. Even at first class they aren't. Okay, so white space counts as blank, yes. Yes, it does. Now that's interesting. White space counting as blank. I'm not sure I'm happy with that as an idea. It's something you have to keep in the back of your mind because there's so many different Unicode white space characters. Yeah, okay. If I become a Clojure programmer and I have problems with that, I will mention it. However, most strings aren't blank, so that's going to be false. That string is not blank. Okay, and now we are on to exercise 3, lists, right? So I'm going to stop this video and start the third one.